In 2020, Twitter, a platform with over 300 million active users, was hit by a massive hack. But this wasn't your ordinary cyber attack. This was a highly coordinated, sophisticated breach that targeted high-profile accounts of some of the most influential figures in the world. Among the accounts compromised were those of Elon Musk, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Bill Gates, and other prominent celebrities and business leaders. Imagine waking up to see tweets from these people offering to double your Bitcoin if you sent some to a specified address. The message was simple. Today, we're going to discuss one of the most shocking and audacious hacks in recent history. A hack that shook the world and served as a wake-up call for cybersecurity. It all started with a teenager who successfully infiltrated one of the biggest social media platforms in the world, Twitter. Not only did he gain control of some of the most high-profile accounts, but he also stole millions of dollars in Bitcoin. Let's dive into how a teenager turned into a global cybercriminal and what lessons we can learn from this incident. I am giving back to the community. Send Bitcoin to this address, and I'll send you double the amount in return. People believed these messages as they came from trusted individuals and started transferring Bitcoin. Unfortunately, the scam was successful, and the hacker made millions in the process. So, how did this teenager manage to pull off such an ambitious hack? The key to understanding this is to look at the method he used: social engineering. Social engineering is a technique where cybercriminals manipulate people into disclosing personal or confidential information. In this case, the hacker didn't just break into Twitter by brute force. He tricked Twitter employees into giving him the access he needed. Graham Ivan Clark, the hacker behind the attack, used phishing and social engineering tactics to gain Twitter employees' credentials. He then used these credentials to access internal Twitter tools that allowed him to take control of any account on the platform. With these tools in hand, he was able to post fake tweets from the targeted accounts, directing users to send Bitcoin to a specific address. By exploiting the trust and authority these prominent figures held, the hacker was able to manipulate people into parting with their cryptocurrency. So, who was behind this audacious hack? The mastermind was a 17-year-old teenager named Graham Ivan Clark from Florida. Graham wasn't working alone. He had a group of friends who helped him plan and execute the attack. While the motivation seemed to be financial gain, the scale of the attack and the use of high-profile accounts suggested that the hacker wasn't just after a quick profit. He wanted to make a statement. Graham was no amateur. He had a history of hacking and had been involved in various cybercrimes before, but nothing on the scale of this Twitter attack. At just 17, Graham became one of the most well-known cybercriminals in the world, and his arrest would soon become a landmark case in the world of cybercrime. Once Twitter became aware of the breach, they acted swiftly to mitigate the damage. Within hours of the hack, the company disabled the affected high-profile accounts, preventing further fraudulent activity. This immediate action was crucial in limiting the hacker's ability to exploit the situation any further. Twitter's response wasn't just about stopping the scam in the moment. They also recognized that this was a massive breach of their internal systems. So, they immediately launched a comprehensive internal investigation. The investigation focused on determining how the hacker gained access to their systems, what specific tools he used, and whether any other accounts or systems were compromised in the process. Twitter's security team worked around the clock to assess the scope of the attack and identify vulnerabilities within their infrastructure that allowed the hacker to bypass existing security protocols. As part of their response, Twitter also began reviewing the internal access points that hackers had exploited, specifically focusing on their employee access systems. The hack exposed some significant weaknesses in Twitter's security, especially in the area of internal tools that allow employees to manage user accounts. The hacker didn't have to use sophisticated code or vulnerabilities in Twitter's public-facing platform. Instead, he gained access by targeting Twitter's internal systems and tools. As a result, Twitter took immediate action to strengthen these internal tools. They implemented stricter access controls and began more thorough vetting processes for employees who had elevated access privileges. They also introduced additional safeguards to prevent similar social engineering attacks, such as phishing, which had been central to the hackers' method. In the aftermath, Twitter began requiring employees to use multi-factor authentication, MFA, for all accounts with administrative access. This was a direct response to the breach, ensuring that even if an employee's credentials were compromised, unauthorized access would still be prevented. While Twitter was working on securing its platform, law enforcement agencies quickly became involved. The FBI, along with other cybercrime-focused units, launched an investigation into the hackers' activities. Given the scale of the attack, which involved prominent figures and resulted in the theft of millions of dollars in Bitcoin, the federal government took the matter seriously. The investigation wasn't easy. Unlike traditional hacking cases where technical breaches are more obvious, this case involved human manipulation. The hacker exploited weaknesses in internal communications and targeted employees to gain privileged access. Therefore, investigators had to carefully analyze not only technical evidence, but also communications between the hacker and the targeted employees. Through digital forensics and careful tracking of the Bitcoin transactions, investigators were able to trace the stolen funds and begin piecing together the hacker's identity. One of the key components that led to the hacker's eventual arrest was the use of Bitcoin. While Bitcoin transactions are known for being somewhat anonymous, they are also transparent on the blockchain, meaning that once the funds are moved, investigators can trace the path of those transactions. In this case, law enforcement used blockchain analysis tools to track the Bitcoin sent to the wallet addresses used by the hacker. They were able to follow the funds as they moved from wallet to wallet, connecting the dots between the hacker's activities and the stolen Bitcoin. This traceability proved to be invaluable. It provided the investigators with the leads they needed to zero in on the individual responsible. Graham Ivan Clark's arrest. After weeks of investigation, the breakthrough came when law enforcement identified the hacker as Graham Ivan Clark, a 17-year-old from Florida. It was clear that Clark wasn't acting alone. He had a small group of collaborators who helped him in executing the attack. The authorities acted quickly. Graham was arrested in July 2020, just weeks after the hack. Given the high-profile nature of the case and the amount of stolen funds, his arrest received significant media attention. Clark was charged with multiple offenses, including financial fraud, unauthorized access to computer systems, and identity theft. Despite being a minor, the severity of his crime meant that he could face serious legal consequences. The legal case would serve as a test for how the justice system would handle cybercrimes committed by young offenders. The legal and social implications. Graham's arrest sent shockwaves through both the cybersecurity and legal communities. The fact that a teenager could successfully pull off such a sophisticated attack on one of the world's largest tech companies highlighted the vulnerabilities present in many digital infrastructures. It also raised important questions about the legal implications of hacking by minors. While Clark was a teenager, his actions were on a scale that would typically be associated with seasoned cybercriminals. This posed a dilemma for the legal system. How should the justice system treat a young hacker who causes massive financial damage? On the one hand, the law must deter cybercriminals, regardless of their age, to maintain trust in digital platforms. On the other hand, the case also sparked discussions about how minors should be treated in the legal system. Many argued that the punishment should be tailored to the individual's age and potential for rehabilitation. Graham's case also reinforced the need for stronger legal frameworks to address cybercrime and the rapidly evolving tactics of cybercriminals. The speed at which this attack unfolded and the complexity of the methods used meant that the legal system needed to be agile and adaptable to keep up with new forms of digital crime. The Twitter hack had far-reaching consequences, not only for the victims who lost their Bitcoin, but also for the broader tech and social media industry. This was a wake-up call for social media companies, showing just how vulnerable even the most secure platforms can be to internal threats. Cybersecurity experts across the world began to warn that this was a new kind of threat. Cybercriminals were now targeting social media platforms to manipulate people's trust. It wasn't just about stealing data anymore. It was about exploiting the influence these platforms had over the public. Following the hack, Twitter took steps to tighten its security, implementing new protocols and increasing awareness about phishing and other social engineering attacks. Other tech companies also followed suit, performing audits of their own systems to ensure they weren't vulnerable to similar attacks. The hack on Twitter offers several important lessons for both individuals and organizations. Cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility. While large corporations like Twitter have dedicated security teams, individual users must also take steps to protect their online presence. Strong passwords, two-factor authentication, and regular updates to security settings are essential. Social engineering can be just as dangerous as technical hacking. This attack wasn't just about bypassing technical defenses. It was about manipulating people. Social engineering remains one of the most effective tools in a hacker's arsenal. Stay vigilant and informed. We all need to stay informed about potential threats. Cybercriminals are constantly coming up with new methods to exploit vulnerabilities, and staying one step ahead is crucial. The 2020 Twitter hack serves as a stark reminder of the growing threat of cybercrime in our digital world. It highlights the importance of strong cybersecurity measures, especially on platforms where millions of people interact daily. Graham Yvonne Clark's actions may have been those of a teenager, but they had serious consequences. The lesson here is clear. In the digital world, negligence or a small mistake can lead to massive consequences. We must take cybersecurity seriously, not only to protect our personal data, but also to ensure the safety and trust of everyone in our connected world. Thank you for listening, and remember, stay secure online.